Hello everyone and welcome to episode 12 of I Read X-Men. I'm Randy.
This is Caitlin.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
All right. Well, we're just going to start things off and start reading some X-Men.
Cool.
For this episode 12, we are covering X-Men number 57 to 61. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with X-Men number 57, The Sentinels Live.
Dun dun dun.
Ooh, the Sentinels are coming back. Pretty cool cover.
Yeah.
So starting right off, we have Lorna Dane. She's settling into her new apartment when she is suddenly attacked and captured by the Sentinels.
Jumping right into it.
They're back, baby. And then we jump back to Egypt, where the X-Men are trying to calm down Alex, because if you remember the last time, he was freaking out over his powers.
Right.
Because they went a little cray. So the authorities arrive, and then the X-Men are trying to turn the living monolith over. He's not the living monolith anymore. He's back to his human guys. So they're trying to turn him over to those authorities, but he has a lot of notoriety in the area because he's an archaeologist. So he kind of turns the table on them. He's like, no, I accuse these guys of wrongdoing.
Ah, the old switcheroo.
So then he accuses Havoc basically of all the wrongdoing, and so they try to arrest him. But when they do that, he accidentally fires one of his blasts, and then he runs away into the desert. Cyclops, of course, he gets really mad, and so he uses his optic blast to make those officers go away. So
it's one way of handling it.
So the X-Men chase after Alex in their jet car, and then we see Alex hiding in a cave. He's just like, why can't these fools leave me alone? He's forever wants to be alone. He feels like he's kind of a bad guy now.
It's sad.
Yeah, kind of is sad. So, but Alex, he's in that cave worrying about his problems, and then lo and behold, a Sentinel appears.
Oh, where'd he come from?
Well, we're going to find out. Then the X-Men are alerted that someone has attacked Lorna Dane's apartment through all their various gizmos in their jet car. So Iceman and Beast decide to return to the U.S. via the jet car, while Cyclops, Jean, and Angel stay in Egypt to find Havoc.
Okay.
Splitting up the resources. And we get this really cool shot of the mystery villain that is pulling all the strings behind the Sentinels. All we know is that he's keeping tabs on the X-Men, and he's got some crazy apparatus on his head.
That he does.
So now we're in New York, and we have Iceman and the Beast. Apparently time has passed enough for them to get back to New York from Egypt. They go to Lorna's apartment, but then they get caught by the police because they're technically breaking into a crime scene. So the police throw a chair at them, and then that chair knocks Beast out of the window. So he starts plummeting to his death. But then Iceman saves him with a clever ice bridge, and then they go hide out in Scott's apartment. They happen to watch a news program, which happens to be playing at the moment they turn on the television. Funny how that happens. Where a federal judge, Judge Robert Chalmers, is denouncing mutants as a menace on national television. Super Nintendo Chalmers.
Those be fighting words.
With him is Larry Trask, the son of Bolivar Trask, the Sentinels' original creator. So Trask is blaming these mutants for the death of his father. That's where his motivation is coming in. What he's done is he's kept a dossier on all of the mutants over the years to try to prove his claims that mutants are a menace. And with the recent events that happened in Egypt, with the X-Men, he proclaims on TV that there is a mutant menace and it will be eliminated by his Sentinels. And then Bobby and Hank watch, unaware that a Sentinel has tracked them down. Dun dun dun. And that leads us to our next issue, X-Men number 58, Mission Murder.
Ooh.
You gonna say something?
I guess I'm just gonna ask a question. So I guess right now in this time frame, I guess for his dossier, would it just be pretty much the X-Men and then maybe like the Brotherhood of of Evil Mutants, and there's really not a whole lot, or do they think that there's possibly more? Like, do they think it's spread quite as wide as it possibly has, or is it they think it's like a contained issue?
As far as I'm aware, I mean, it's everything we've read in the X-Men comics so far, and I'm sure there's other stories of mutants popping up.
Okay.
You know, it's just usually when a mutant pops up, disaster strikes.
Gotcha.
And I think that's why people tend to hate mutants more so than like your average superhero or someone who gains their powers later in life. You know, these are kids with the powers, with crazy powers, and, you know, they think they can't control them, and they're just pretty crazy.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
Okay, so here we go with Mission Murder. Very cool cover. One of my favorite covers. Got Havoc in silhouette. So we start off with the Sentinels attacking Iceman and the Beast. And I also forgot to point out, all of these issues are written by Roy Thomas, and we have some beautiful artwork by Neil Adams, as we will see and have seen. Neil Adams was very strong on the X-Men book, gained a lot of notoriety. So we have a Sentinel attacking Iceman and the Beast. And then we see that the Sentinels have been redesigned to adapt to mutant powers.
Ooh.
So we see here, to deal with Iceman, the Sentinel has steam jets built into his fingers. So back to the TV, we see Trask is saying that the Sentinels can also be controlled via his helmet.
Oh, okay.
So that's who that was in the last episode. It's Trask controlling the Sentinels. And we see that Bobby is using his ice image power again, where he makes
multiples of.
Yeah, basically, he's like, "Here's an ice one. Which one's the real one?"
Yeah,
and then they just smash the wrong
ice
ones.
Sculptures of himself.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool power. I like it when they come up with new imaginative ways to use their powers. So Iceman gets captured, and then the Beast flees, and he changes out of his costume to try to hide in the open. We go back to Egypt, and we see that the X-Men are getting a call from Hank, and he explains everything that's happened. Warren decides to fly back to the U.S. on his own.
Oof.
That's a long...
That's a trek.
That is a long flight.
Yeah.
He kind of did it before.
Yeah.
He knows he can do it, but good golly. So then we have Trask talking to Justice Chalmers, who expresses concern about Trask's proof about the mutant menace.
Okay.
So he's kind of calling him into question. Larry agrees to let the press talk to Iceman.
Okay.
Because but what he does is it kind of tricks the whole system. He treats Iceman with a chemical steam that nullifies his ice powers for 4 hours. So then when he lets Bobby out, Bobby attempts to attack him, but he's stopped by a Sentinel, and he can't use his ice powers. And then Larry reveals that he's taped that whole attack. And he's going to use that as leverage. He's like, there's my proof.
Ah, sneaky.
It's like, I was going to let you out, and you attacked me.
Right.
You're a menace. So then we see that Iceman finds Lorna and Alex are there. And Trask has given Alex a special suit that kind of regulates his powers.
Uh-huh.
And he also gave him the code name Havoc. Why? I don't know. Sounds cool.
Why is he helping him? Well, why is he giving him a suit?
Well, it's cool. They have these little concentric circles on the suit.
Right.
And the more they expand out, like the more power he has built up.
Right.
Kind of think of it like those old, like, battery testers.
Yeah, I guess my question is why?
He was given all of this in return for making a deal with Trask so that Lorna would be left alone.
Oh, well, there we go.
There it is.
All right.
So then a Sentinel enters the room and grabs Lorna. Realizing that Trask's word is meaningless, Havoc then destroys the Sentinel. He's like, you were supposed to help me protect this girl, but no. So then Larry uses a device that nullifies Alex's powers via the little headdress that he's wearing on his suit. And then this reawakens the mutant abilities of Professor Abdul, who is the living monolith.
Uh-huh.
So, remember they're tied together?
Yeah.
When the solar solar energy doesn't enter Havoc. It immediately goes to Abdul, so he starts growing to the size of the living monolith. But then all of a sudden, 2 Sentinels arrive, and then they cover him with this special adhesive that blocks the cosmic rays, so they trap him as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then Trask sends out an army of Sentinels to capture all of the remaining mutants, and Angel gets captured while flying back home. Then we see that Mesmero and Magneto are attacked, and Magneto gets blasted by one of the Sentinels, and then it's revealed that he was a robot this entire time.
Magneto?
Yes.
Ah.
So ever since Magneto came back from the dead, quote
Okay.
unquote, when Mesmero showed up, it's been apparently Magneto created a robot, to be there in his stead while he was doing something else. So
Okay.
they kind of did that with Doctor Doom a couple times. He had a lot of Doom bots that kind of got away. So yeah, there you go. And Mesmero's kind of pissed. He's like,
Well,
I've been following a robot this whole time.
What a waste.
Yeah, and then of course Mesmero gets captured as well. We get Judge Chalmers arriving at Larry's base, and he expresses his displeasure at the mutants' inhumane treatment. So this really infuriates Larry Trask, and he says that he's going to capture the remaining mutants, and he swears on the medallion that he's wearing because it was a gift from his father shortly after the death of Larry's mother. And his father made him swear to never take that medallion off. Remember that. It's important for later.
Noted.
So, we see a Sentinel capturing Banshee. He was playing possum, and then he attacked him when he got to the base. But then we see that the Sentinel was able to counter his sonic scream. All these Sentinels, they got a database. Each Sentinel is designed to... It's not like the Sentinels are super adaptive like they were in the movie Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
It's like they designed a Sentinel to take down each person. So, and then on the last panel, we see that Larry is ordering the Sentinels to hunt down and destroy the remaining mutants. Chalmers strikes Larry, and he knocks the medallion off of him. Then the Sentinels detect the presence of another mutant,
Oh, no.
Larry, and informs him that because he is a mutant, his command over them is null and void. And that despite this, they're going to carry out his last command, which was to destroy all mutants.
How the tables they have turned.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, he technically was a human until he took that medallion off.
Right.
So in their logical mind, they have to carry out the last human order they got from their master. Interesting. Okay, now we go to X-Men number 59. Do or Die, baby. That's the actual name.
All right.
So we start with Cyclops, Beast, and Marvel Girl. They're using Cerebro to track down the captured mutants. Their jet car is blasted out of the sky, but Jean's telepathy saves them. Larry Trask is still wrapping his head around being a mutant himself, and Judge Chalmers says to him that he knew the truth all along and explains that Larry's father created the medallion after Larry's precognition powers foretold his mother's death.
Oh, okay.
So
He's a precog.
Exactly. So that's why he was just like, put on the medallion. I'm going to protect you, but mutants are a menace still.
Even though you are one.
Exactly. So the Sentinels reiterate that they're going to carry out their last human command to capture and destroy all mutants. We then see the Sentinels capturing Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Toad, and Mastermind, Blob, and Eunice. Judge Chalmers thinks now that this whole thing that's happening is all his fault. He's like, it's fallen onto me now.
Yeah, a little bit.
So the Sentinels detect the X-Men are near their base, and they attack. Then the X-Men easily defeat these Sentinels and then enter the base. Inside, a Sentinel craft arrives with the captured Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and Toad, which gives Cyclops an idea. Light bulb. They pull the old switcheroo, and this is just great. The X-Men trade costumes with the Brotherhood.
Oh, huh.
So the Sentinels aren't prepared to deal with those different powers. You know, they're prepared for the jumping, the running fast, and the I guess hex bolts.
Yeah.
But they weren't prepared for Cyclops, Jean, and Beast. So you know, they easily destroy those Sentinels. And then we see that Judge Chalmers awakens Trask from his suspended animation tube, and then Trask has a vision of Havoc getting injured. Chalmers asks how to stop the Sentinels, and Larry looks at the device he used to neutralize Havoc's powers earlier, because he can't really talk to him, but he awakened him, so he's kind of like signaling with his eyes, like, it's over there, use that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where he gets the idea. Then we see that Cyclops and the others, they're fighting their way to the main chamber, and then we finally see that Judge Chalmers realizes that what that gun is really for, and he uses it to reactivate Havoc's powers. Cyclops then blasts open Alex's cryotube, and Havoc attacks. Chalmers tells Cyclops that the only way to beat the Sentinels is with logic, so Cyclops then suggests that it would be easier to eliminate the source that causes mutation. Can you guess what they're going to do?
I don't know.
Well, the Sentinels realize that it's the sun that's the cause of all the mutants on Earth through solar radiation and things like that. So with this logic, and this is great, the entire Sentinel army blasts off into space, and then they try to destroy the sun.
Oh, silly Sentinels.
So what they really do is just fly into the sun, and they're all melted and destroyed.
Yeah. Hmm.
So in the aftermath, Cyclops finds Alex buried in a pile of rubble. He realizes that he needs medical attention and psychiatric help through everything that he's been through. He's kind of had a little mental breakdown.
Yeah, a little bit.
So he decides to call one of the professor's old colleagues, Dr. Carl Lykos. And he makes arrangements with Scott on the phone, and then we see one of his patients suddenly slump into unconsciousness. Can you guess what's coming next? Do you remember who Carl Lykos is?
Sauron, right?
Yep. And so we go to X-Men number 60, In the Chateau. Chateau?
Chateau.
Not Chateau. Shadow. In the Shadow of Sauron. And they give us this really cool title page here. So the X-Men leave Larry Trask. Point this down. So the X-Men leave Larry Trask and Judge Chalmers to free the other captured mutants. Chalmers puts the medallion back on Larry, making him forget everything that has transpired, because apparently the medallion has that effect on him as well.
Okay.
So then the X-Men leave in their new ship. It was the Sentinel transport. So bye-bye jet car. Hello, Sentinel ship.
Yeah.
Lorna decides that her place is with the X-Men in light of recent events, and so she is officially accepted into the group.
Your welcome packet will come shortly.
Exactly. Returning to New York, Scott and Jean take Alex over to Dr. Carl Lykos, a doctor who uses hypnosis to help people deal with their problems. Scott and Jean leave, and then they return to the X-Mansion. There they find the others in the Danger Room doing a quick Danger Room sesh. And if you remember, the X-Men were supposed to be disbanded at this point.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're all going back, we're kind of getting a return to normalcy of the X-Men here.
They tried that.
That storyline didn't quite work out, so
Yeah.
they're just kind of like easing them back into the mansion.
Yeah, we prefer you as a team.
Then we get Cyclops. He joins the battle session, and then they comment on the mutants that were captured, pointing out the absence of both Magneto and Changeling.
Okay.
So you remember, like, basically all of the mutants were there that we've ever run into.
Yeah.
So of the main mutants, Changeling and Magneto were not present.
Okay.
So just something to note. At his office, Carl Lykos recalls back to when he was a boy and he was on an expedition with his father. So we get a little history of Carl Lykos. His father's associate, Mr. Anderson, and his daughter Tanya were in the Antarctic regions of Tierra del Fuego. Tierra del Fuego. So Tanya went missing. Young Carl found her in a cave being attacked by pterodactyls. No explanation. Just pterodactyls. It's a Marvel Universe, folks. So Carl saves Tanya, but then one of them wounds him. So he gets a wound from a pterodactyl.
Dactyl.
Yes.
A Dracula dactyl.
Pretty close. Carl was very near death, but when he was greeted by his dog, who was on this expedition as well, he touched the dog and he drained the dog's energy. And so that was kind of interesting.
Poor dog.
But growing up, he then fell in love with Tanya. However, her father thought that he was too poor for her. So he went to medical school and he vowed to do anything to marry her. And then we see, back to the present, Lycos hooks Alex up to his machine. He knew Xavier had opened a school for mutants, and he thinks Alex is a mutant. So, trying it for the first time, he is feeding off of Alex's mutant energy. So, normally he would just feed off of human energy.
Right.
This is the first time that he's done so with a mutant.
Okay.
Doing so transforms him into the humanoid pterodactyl, and also recalling his love for the writings of J.R.R. Tolkien, he then renames himself Sauron.
Ah.
So it is motivated by the Sauron from Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Reports start to come in of Sauron on TV shows. And the X-Men decided to keep a low profile because of all the recent events with the Sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
So Angel disagrees with this. Everyone wants to stay home and just like let the police take care of it, but he's just like, no, I'm going to go out solo to do this. And he goes out as the Avenging Angel again.
Okay. Quick question.
Yes.
So, is this the first time... This isn't the first time he's ever transformed into a pterodactyl, is it?
This is the first time
he's
he's transformed into a pterodactyl.
Okay.
Normally, he just zaps people's energy the same way that we would, like, eat food and take a nap.
Okay, when he zaps their energy, does he kill them?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of like he's slowly taking it.
Okay, all right. And does Xavier know he does this?
Xavier does not know that he does this.
Okay, because I was going to say, that's a crappy referral.
Yeah.
All right.
So Warren tracks down Sauron, but then Sauron unleashes a hypnotic gaze on Warren. Probably going to hypnotize him.
Okay.
Okay, and that takes us to our last comic.
Here we go.
X-Men number 61, Monsters Also Weep.
Ooh.
So, start off with a pretty cool opening page where Sauron is hypnotizing Angel. And we see that Angel, while he's hypnotized, he sees phantom images of gigantic flying monsters.
Ooh.
And he realizes that they're illusions, because he can like fly through them.
It's an illusion.
And in the next panel, we get this really cool recap of the last issue.
Oh, neat.
And it's just panels on Sauron's wing. It's really artistic. It's really awesome. So then we get the X-Men arrive because they're not going to leave Angel to go out alone. But then Sauron hypnotizes Jean. And so Angel and Iceman attack Sauron. And in that, we learn that Sauron hates the cold. So Iceman is key to defeating him. Sauron begins to change back into his human form because his energy boost from Havoc is kind of wearing off. So he hypnotizes Angel again to take him home. So Angel just carries off Carl Lycos back to his office. So he returns to his office and he finds Tanya there. Shocked to find her in his office, she tells him that she had a premonition that something was wrong and she had to come and see him. And no, she is not a mutant.
Okay.
It is just gut intuition. So now the battle with Sauron is over. Scott and the other X-Men arrive to Carl Lycos' place to check on Alex, and they find him doing better.
Oh.
If he's, it's honestly a good thing for him because he's sapping off all the extra energy that he would have as Havoc, so he's less of a problem.
Okay. It's not so much a ticking time bomb.
Pretty much. So, and it's just funny that, these guys were just fighting a minute ago. So then Tanya's father arrives and calls Carl a fraud and a charlatan. Lycos says only money and power will make him worthy of Tanya, and he vows angrily to get it. And then Tanya storms out. Returning home, the X-Men find Angel waiting in some kind of trance. He hears the name Lycos and snaps out of it. Realizing the connection between Lycos and Sauron, the X-Men then decide to return to investigate.
Okay, because they didn't realize they were one and the same.
They did not realize that they were one and the same.
But didn't Angel carry him back to his
He
lab?
He did. He just carried him back, and then he probably just told him to go home.
Oh, okay.
You know, so he wasn't there when they showed up.
He wasn't purposely dropping him off
No,
at that
no,
lab
no,
because he thought he belonged there.
No. He hypnotized him.
Okay.
So Carl hypnotized him, said, "Take me home."
Okay.
He does, and he's just like, "Get out of here."
Gotcha.
And then they find him at home.
Okay.
So as the X-Men are going to leave, Lycos breaks into the X-Mansion, and then he absorbs Lorna's energy, turning into Sauron once more.
Oh boy, he's hooked.
He is. Sauron then travels to the Anderson home, which is Tanya's home, and they recognize Sauron's voice to be that of Carl Lycos.
Oh, you're trying to make it good. That is not a way to win the dad over.
Only through money and power?
Yeah, but
and pterodactyl powers.
I'm a pterodactyl now. Like, I'm a dinosaur.
I don't know if that's the power that he was really looking for.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaurs with that dino DNA. So the X-Men then arrive and they attack Sauron. Sauron realizes how evil he has become and he flies away. We see that Carl is traveling to his father's old home in Tierra del Fuego.
Okay.
Its isolation will keep him away from humans in hopes that he will eventually starve to death. So he's so far gone with this thing, realizing he's a monster, he's ready to just let himself die.
Okay. He doesn't need human to sap human in order to stay alive. He just
He does.
Oh, he does.
He needs to sap energy to stay alive. That's his shtick.
Okay, he needs to do
But
that.
if he gets mutant energy, he turns into Sauron, probably because of the pterodactyl bite. It mutated him somehow.
Okay.
So we don't know if the energy sapping thing is a latent mutant power or if it was caused by the pterodactyl. Hasn't really been explained at this point.
Okay.
We just know that this is the way it is right now.
Okay, and then just normal human sapping stays normal human.
Yeah.
Mutant sapping turns into dinosaur.
Exactly. So Tanya has deduced where Lycos is gone, and days later she arrives. Carl is so starved for energy that one touch against her would kill her because he needs all that energy. So he attempts to commit suicide by jumping off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men, having followed Tanya in secret, attempt to stop them both from going over the cliff's edge, with Iceman making an ice barrier. What? It's hard to talk sometimes.
An ice barrier.
Ice barrier. So Iceman makes an ice barrier, but he only manages to save Tanya. And Carl Lycos falls to his presumable death.
Okay.
And there you go. That's X-Men number 61. We're kind of reaching the end of our bonus features.
Okay.
Remember the bonus features?
Mm-hmm.
We had one in X-Men number 57. It is the female of the species.
Ooh.
Now, this is a very poignant thing because, one, we get art by our boy Werner Roth.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also, it's written by Linda Fight, which I believe is the first female author on the X-Men book.
All right. Well, that's cool.
And I believe also that she was just a super fan of the X-Men, and so they're like, let's have a woman write for the woman X-Men.
Write something for us. All right.
So here we go
Girl
for
power.
the female of the species. So here we get Jean Grey's powers explained. And like I said before, the first female writer in the X-Men. Jean explains her telekinetic powers. She can use her mind to lift objects, large and small. Here we see her making an apple pie. She explains how her powers can get her out of traps, such as using them to turn a bolt of a locked door from the opposite side. We get an example of that. And then Jean next explains how she can levitate with her powers. She also explains that she can cause pain in someone's mind with mental bolts.
Ooh.
Just give someone like an ice cream headache.
Gotcha. I didn't know she could do that.
Yeah, it's kind of the telekinetic, telepathic side. Professor X can do that, so she can too. But this ends with a pretty funny note. she says that she confesses that she has no problem turning a man's head without using her powers.
Oh, Jane.
Clever girl.
Clever girl.
And that's it. With that, we're going to wrap up our episode. This has been I Read X-Men, episode 12, where we discussed X-Men number 57 to 61. Any favorites, Caitlin?
I don't know. I mean, all of them were pretty jam-packed. I think I really liked the last one.
The Sauron?
Yeah. I think that was a good kind of wrap-up.
It was a good two-parter.
Kind of gave you some feels at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of felt for him, even though he was kind of a bad guy.
Like this set of starting with X-Men 57, this is where I feel like the X-Men have caught their stride, and we get a really good example of like the future of X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
They're hounded because people hate them. They fear what they hate. They hate and fear what they don't understand.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, and then we get the Sentinels. We get the awesome art by Neil Adams. This is just a solid run of X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody who's a fan should definitely read these issues.
Yeah,
this,
I mean,
this is a great starting place for anybody
for sure.
if you want to get through the campy stuff of everything before.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot going on. I mean, there was a twist with the whole Trask is really a mutant. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What a twist.
All in all, really good issues.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, so next time you can join us for X-Men number 62 through 66, and that is the remaining issues of the first run of X-Men. So,
where are we going to go from here?
Well, you're just going to have to stay tuned to find out.
All right, I will.
So for I Read X-Men, this has been Randy.
This is Caitlin.
Join us next time and read more X-Men.
Bye.